You're listening to Alabama Tradition with Ryan Fowler and Martin Houston on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. Championships, 27 SEC titles, 131 first-team All-Americans, 70 postseason appearances, 39 postseason victories. This is Alabama football. And this is Alabama Tradition with Martin Houston and Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
It's a great day when you talk Alabama Crimson Tide football in Tuscaloosa, and we're going to do that today on Alabama Tradition. Alabama taking on the Auburn Tigers. Alabama's got this series lead, trying to find a way to smash the Tigers and kind of give them a little bit of a payback. Mac Jones, you know it's a revenge game for him. We're going to talk about that. Alabama's going to be ranked at number 1, we hope. College football playoff rankings and the conversation around Alabama. Who's going to be number 2? Who's going to be number 3? Who's going to be 4? Where's Texas A&M, Florida going to be ranked? Alabama able to beat Texas A&M, and the quality win is there. Notre Dame, don't forget the love that they're going to spend for Notre Dame. We've got playoff rankings coming up. We've got cancellations all over college football. Fingers still crossed. Auburn, don't you dare try to pull this. I'm not saying they will. I'm just, we got to make people accountable. We got Nick Saban audio. We got a lot of things to get to. We will also invite you to be a part of the program if you want to do that. 205-342-9904. We will react to the college football playoff numbers as we get them. Waiting for the college football playoff rankings to be released. 13 members inside of a room debating, will this be the difficult challenge ahead for this football season? 2020. How do you evaluate 10, 11, 8, 7, even games getting canceled as we speak? How are you going to evaluate that? How are you going to try to find a way to look at these teams and look at the criteria, look at the strength of schedule, look at these teams and say, hey, this is the best team in college football? Will that committee be able to evaluate the Alabama Crimson Tide? How much? How close? That's going to be a lot of the conversation that we will talk about as we travel throughout the evening. Let's start with Nick Saban, the best coach in college football, analyzing the game. He's been a part of this rivalry. He understands it going into year number 14. He's 8-5 in his 13 years. He's really dominated everybody if you look at the win-loss record. But this is one thorn that's been in the side of Nick Saban. Why? We're going to talk about that as we travel throughout the day. And as we will be with you until 7 o'clock, as I said, we will invite you to be a part of the phone calls. If you want to jump in, you can do that at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. The best coach in college football, Nick Saban, opening comments, just a couple of minutes here, and then we'll right back to the conversation as we're waiting the college football playoff rankings as they happen. Here is Nick Saban.
Yeah, I think, looking at the Kentucky game, regardless of score, there's still some opportunities there for us to learn and grow and get some mistakes corrected that would help our consistency and performance. Congratulations to Devontae Smith for being, called Offensive Player of the Week this week. All eyes here are looking forward to, the Iron Bowl, which is one of the, great rivalries, I think, in college football. Certainly means a lot to a lot of people in this state and all over the country. So, as always, we're playing a very, very good team, a top 20 team. Gus has done a really good job there. These guys play well in all phases of the game. Their defense has played well. They're second in scoring in the SEC and scoring defense. They've got some very active, linebackers, very athletic on defense, make a lot of big plays, very well coached. Kevin Steele does a great job with them. Offensively, they got great balance. They run the ball effectively. Bo Nix is a very effective quarterback in every regard. He's a very good passer. They've got some very good skill guys at receiver. He can extend plays. He can run quarterback runs when they need him to. They've got some really good running backs. So they have great balance. Play really, really well on special teams. Good return game, good specialist. So this is going to be a very challenging game for us in a lot of ways, and we certainly need to play our best football of the season to be able to have success in this game.
Nick Saban, I've always wanted to correct you. Here I will. He said Auburn was a top 20 team. He's actually wrong. Auburn is checking in at 22. I'm just trying to be nice. When you look at the Auburn Tigers at 22, that's what they think of the guys. We'll talk about Alabama. And Martin Houston, I hope all is well, my friend. Welcome into Alabama Tradition.
I am doing well, Ryan, and glad to be here, man. Auburn checking in at 22.
Ooh.
Coastal Carolina is 20.
Is ahead of the Auburn Tigers. Hey, Auburn. Hey, Auburn.
Hey, have you seen Coastal Carolina play?
No.
You need to watch them play. Their center's 5'9".
Really?
They have nobody on their offensive line, Ryan, like over 270.
Wow.
It's amazing what they're doing. So
Coastal Carolina.
8-0.
Hey, it's good. I mean, listen, we talk about, winning a national title. That's how we take success. But, you look at the guys in a lot of these other schools, they just fight for a chance to be recognized. In Coastal Carolina, their moment in the spotlight. BYU at number 14. That's
at 9-0.
At 9-0. That tells you
they ought to be top 10 just for having played 9 games.
Wow. Look at strength of schedule there. Indiana dropping to 12. Oklahoma 5-2. LSU is not in the top 25 rankings. It's the first time that a national champ has not been ranked in the inaugural college football playoff rankings in the 7-year history. Little jab from the penthouse to the outhouse in just a few months. LSU, how you guys doing?
How can a 6-2 Big 12 team be in front of anybody that's 9-0?
How do you evaluate this talent? Like if don't you think that this is the most difficult job at this committee? 13-member committee has been presented with as this year.
I would say it should be, but it still looks like they're doing a lot of the same old recognizing the brand, for the most part.
Hey, there's a Miami team. You guys took care of them, didn't you?
Right. How is a 5-2? Auburn's 5-2.
Georgia's number 9?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Have they watched the same Georgia team that I've watched? Georgia's not. They're a top 10 team.
It has to be JT Daniels, honest. I mean, maybe them switching to JT Daniels making them think that they're better than they are.
JT Daniels got them a 3-point win over Mississippi State, and Mississippi State had the ball.
But at some point, the win-loss record has got to count. And
that's what I'm saying. 6-2,
so that
Big
tells
12,
you
5-2.
Are we setting up for a surprise on Florida? I mean, maybe they think so much of the Gators. They have to be. Northwestern at 8, 5-0, undefeated. That may be the team from the Big Ten West. But I mean, are they respecting Florida? I'm trying not to speculate too much. But if they're giving Georgia the top 10, they've got to respect Florida. So Alabama will be at the one spot.
They're going to be. Florida will. Even though Florida's lost to Texas A&M, I would not be surprised if Florida's not in front of Texas A&M.
Here we'll go. The top 25 college football playoff rankings, the AP and the USA Today coaches poll. Right now at this point, just a novelty poll because the College Football Playoff Committee is really evaluating teams. So we'll do one is the loneliest number that you've had.
Oregon's going to be top.
No, Oregon was outside. They were 13, 3-0. So
Utah's in with 1-0.
Oh, hey, look, a mid-major. Cincinnati gets 7, 8-0. Yeah. Nice win against those guys, Central Florida. And I kind of like their coach, man. He's an in-your-face type guy. You look at Cincinnati, so 8-0.
I like him too. He kind of, to me, did wrong at Ohio State with the way they did and brought. But he did a good job, I thought, the situation he was put in. But he seems to be doing well for Cincinnati.
Danny Cannell and I agree. He's questioning Georgia at number 9, too. So Danny Cannell's jumping out saying, have you got to be kidding me? I know he gets irritated with the SEC.
Ryan, this is about as on the spot as we've ever been on Alabama Tradition. We're
giving instant reaction.
This is literally instant reaction to what appears to, like I said, it's kind of a crazy poll with this year. Not only, there's no cross-conference game, so you can't really judge conference against conference. So a conference with bad records could be because it's a balanced conference, or it could be that, that it's a really bad conference. And then you have, I just can't understand Iowa. Georgia and Iowa State were the two that jumped out at me with 2 losses. And Georgia's coming from the SEC, and Georgia's 2 losses, at least Georgia's 2 losses is going to feature people in the top 5 probably. But when you look at the Iowa State,
yeah, this committee, and you're trying to evaluate it. Here we go. We'll look at the Florida Gators there at number 6. So the Florida Gators at 6. So Texas A&M will be 5. And we're not officially. We're jumping the gun a little bit. So what they'll probably do is Texas A&M at number 5. So you've got Florida at 6, Texas A&M at 5, and then we'll get into the top 4. So we're looking at the college football rankings, and we'll be with you every Tuesday night here on Alabama Tradition. We'll have the rankings every Tuesday as they'll release these college football playoff criteria and the evaluation. So we're waiting for the Final Four. We're going to redo that. We're going to also talk about Alabama and Auburn and what Alabama needs to prove. If you're just now tuning in, the Auburn Tigers at 22, big takeaway, 5-2 football team. Looks like this committee doesn't look at the Auburn Tigers and say that. That's a low spot for them. I thought they'd at least be in the top 20. And
Auburn's lost to South Carolina, and who else beat Auburn?
I got
Georgia, maybe.
Yeah, Georgia.
Georgia just didn't beat them. There you go. Alabama, number 1 team in college football. Look at the Auburn Tigers.
So is it that much disrespect for South Carolina?
30-22,
Auburn?
and then a stomping 27-6. Notre Dame at number 2, and then Ohio State will be 3, and Clemson will be 4. We're thinking that this Alabama, it's good to be on top, is it not? We live
okay. With that said, wow,
Clemson number 3. Martin, we're
if these
I don't know what this committee's doing.
No, I'm telling you what these committee's doing. They're gonna Texas A&M is gonna be left out. Period. If Florida continues to win,
and they're covering for Notre Dame and Clemson.
Yes, Notre Dame and Clemson will be in there if Clemson wins.
They're setting it up.
The only way Clemson, this is setting up Notre Dame to be in,
regardless, and which will be, listen, if you put those 4 teams in, Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, ratings would be off the charts.
Yes.
But now,
and then if Florida beats Alabama, they'll be in.
But now, would Alabama slot out? Are they covering for?
That's
Alabama
a great question.
would have to slide out
because you've got Texas A&M at number 5,
but Ohio State's going to run the table the next 3 games that they have, so they're going to be undefeated. And
do you know what Ohio State's right now going into the Indiana game, Ryan? I don't know what the 3 teams left on their schedule did this past week, but going into last week's game, including Indiana, their schedule had 9 total wins. You take Indiana out, and all the teams they had played or had left to play on their schedule had won a grand total of 5 games. And we're saying, and they struggle against the 4-1 Indiana team. But I'm telling you, I don't know, Ryan. How do you, if you don't kick Alabama out, Florida's going in if they beat Alabama.
I agree, yeah.
But with Florida being at that number 6, I don't feel very comfortable about that. At Alabama at that number 1 spot, I like that there. But when you look at, and you got to put Texas A&M in front of Florida because they at the end of the day, head-to-head matters, right? So maybe that's what that committee's doing is they'll work their way through the Florida Gators, and but will Alabama have enough of a strength of schedule there?
They're playing in the SEC.
Sure.
And look have at the rankings. Be giving Notre Dame and Clemson strength of schedule if their 1 loss keeps them at 2 and 3. I mean, Clemson.
Georgia, and Heather Dinich points this out. She says Georgia's overall combined record is 15-22. The only win that they have over a team with a winning record is Auburn. Georgia.
And they're number 9.
Glory. All right, so we'll talk more. If you guys want to talk about it, we can do it right here. Alabama at that number 1 spot, Texas A&M at number 5, Florida at 6, 9, Georgia, 22, Auburn. That is the college football rankings. When we talk about it, if you want to jump in, we got to talk about the Alabama and Auburn Iron Bowl. A lot of things to talk about. How can Alabama stay at that number 1 spot? We will discuss that and a lot more right here on Alabama Tradition, the past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Get 15% off a set of BrakeBest Select, Select Pro, or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors now at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Foster's Veterinarian Clinic with Dr. Jimmy Canaan. 35 years of serving this community. The name that we've trusted, Dr. Jimmy Canaan. Small animal practice providing full veterinarian services only 10 minutes from where I'm located here on Skyline Boulevard. 10 minutes from downtown Tuscaloosa. You'll find Foster's Supermarket Shopping Center. Foster's Veterinarian Clinic right there on Gainesville Road and Highway 11 off of Exit 62. Definitely worth the drive. The customer service, small animal practice providing full veterinarian services. It's Dr. Jimmy Canaan and Foster's Veterinarian Clinic.
Tide 100.9 WTID-FM. The station in Tuscaloosa for ESPN Radio. Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. You are listening to Alabama Tradition with Martin Houston and Ryan Fowler. Your connection to Tuscaloosa and the University of Alabama athletics on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
You'll ever do. 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the number 1.
All right, so we welcome you right back into Alabama Tradition. Alabama at number 1, Notre Dame at 2, Clemson 3, Ohio State at 4, Texas A&M 5, 6 Florida, 7 Cincinnati, 8 Northwestern, 9 Georgia, 10 Miami, Oklahoma at 11, Indiana at 12, Iowa State 13, BYU at 14, 15 Oregon will drop down to 22, the Auburn Tigers, Coastal Carolina, Marshall. A lot of teams in front of the Auburn Tigers. They'll come here with it all on the line. We talk about no risk when you look at the Alabama and Auburn game. The Iron Bowl. Martin, I've kind of been setting up the conversation here when you look at Alabama at that number 1 spot. If they continue to win, they control their own destiny. When you look at Alabama trying to find a way. But your initial reaction, I was going to ask you a question, but I'll go back to that in a couple of minutes. Just We've had a couple of minutes to let that marinate in that ranking. What is your number 1 takeaway from the initial college football playoff rankings?
First of all, I know I'm a conspiracy theorist when it
too.
comes to college football playoffs.
I
don't trust them that they are really looking at the best 4 teams per se. The Notre Dame Clemson situation, despite the fact that Clemson is in front of, had the 1 loss and Notre Dame didn't. I thought that whoever won that game, if Clemson won it the second time around, was going to get in. I just didn't think they would put them ahead of Ohio State. So that's kind of a surprise to me that Ohio State sits at number 4. The 4 teams that are in there, that's what I thought would be the 4, but that order is probably the biggest surprise of the night. Them leapfrogging Ohio State.
I mean, and Ohio State, they've played their toughest opponent. They won by 7. Indiana, that's it.
The only thing that they have left is Northwestern
in the Big Ten.
If Northwestern wins out, They would have Northwestern. Who does Ohio State? I don't even know who they have left.
Well,
but-
you got the Illini there.
Wow. Ooh, scary there.
That's this weekend.
That'd be the comparison to what, Vanderbilt for us? Maybe Kentucky?
Currently, the Illini are 2-3 out of Champaign, Illinois. Then you got Michigan State, which is a 1-3 football team. You've got Michigan, another 2-3 football team. I guess my question is have you seen enough at Ohio State to say that they're one of the best 4 teams in the country?
They got credit for beating Penn State, who hasn't beaten anyone. They're 0-5.
Woo! I love college football playoff rankings. Gives us plenty to talk about. But, I mean, you got to scare and scratch your head. All right, so let's paint up the scenario. All right, Alabama. You got Auburn this weekend. They're 25. I mean, this line has went up all afternoon. I don't know if people are just putting their bets in, but the line is up to 25.5 in most places out in Vegas. It's up.
I just thought about something, Ryan. I'm sorry. You know, it would be better for Alabama to lose this game and win out and play Florida and beat Florida in the bowl. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think that they would be better. Alabama would have a better chance of getting in probably and staying in if they were to lose this week and then beat Florida.
Which is with motivation?
No, because if we beat Auburn, then Auburn's dropping out of the top 25, which at the end of the season, that's not going to be a top 25 win. We need those.
Well, yeah, but they value Georgia. They value Georgia. That's
true. If they're sitting at 5-2 and they're considered a top 10 team, and they just beat Mississippi State by 3, okay? Mississippi State scored 24 points on Georgia vaunted defense, and we shut them out. And everybody's been shutting Mississippi State out other than LSU and Georgia.
Right. I mean, so when you back up a couple of minutes and you begin to think, like you said, the 4 is not a surprise. It's the order. And we'll have quotes coming up after the show. We'll be able to listen. There's a teleconference coming up at 7:00, and we'll be able to listen to the committee chair try to explain, what the gap is between Alabama. All right, so let's go to Alabama, Kentucky. Just going back just for a couple of minutes. Your big takeaway from Alabama's, victory by a lot of points. They played a lot of guys, and did you see anything at Kentucky that lets you know this football team is still on the pathway to win a national title?
Yeah, well, just kind of talk from the good, good, bad, ugly kind of perspective, Ryan. The good is that we played well after 3 weeks off. Rusty early.
Sure.
Gave up 178 yards in the first 3 drives. The total at the end of the game was 179. So that tells you kind of got things figured out after those first 3 drives. So that's good. The defense was able to get back to that level, only giving up 3 points. Should have gave up 9 to 17, but that's kind of what I predicted. So that was good on the defensive side. Offensively, Ryan, we just scored 63 points and had our worst offensive game. As one listener said to me, he said, yeah, kind of crazy that we can nitpick in our offense and end up with 60 plus points. What I like, Ryan, is Mac Jones didn't have to throw for 400 yards for us to have that type of offensive explosion. Another takeaway I had, and this may be more future than anything, Ryan, for the first time in a long time when we put the backups in and just tried to run the clock out, we actually dominated that team. We continued to score when we put the backups in, and the backups end up leading rusher. So that part was good. The bad was I saw Mac Jones press a little bit. I hope that's not a Heisman pressure moment. I'm hoping that's a 3-week layoff moment, if that makes sense. He tried to force some balls in there. Should have had 3 interceptions in this game, just like Justin Fields had. Had 2 dropped and had the one where he forced it to Smitty. And
Nick Saban called it a hope ball.
Hope ball, yeah. One other key thing I think we found in this game is Jaleel Billingsley. Think about what tight ends have done to our defense.
Sure.
And we've not done that to other defenses. I mean, what's his name has been okay, but he looked like he's a legit weapon. And then it looked like we found another punt returner.
Hey, And at what point do you look at Devontae? And I know he broke the SEC record of Amari Cooper and Chris Doering, but when you take a look, and I almost think Devontae Smith should also be getting some of that Heisman love. I mean, when you look at the stats, I know that it's not a wide receiver award. I mean, it's
a quarterback
driven award, but
yeah,
there's some backs that have been a part of it. All right, so I told the audience that I was dying to hear your evaluation. I know that you went to a lot of high school football games in the state of Alabama. You know Roydell Williams. I remember when Northridge played Hueytown probably 3 or 4 years ago. You were kind of pretty high on him. But take a look at those studs in the backfield after Brian and Najee, Jace McClellan, and Roydell Williams. Just your thoughts on those two backs.
Well, that's I think part of it was the quality of the blocks they were getting, Ryan. But I also think that it was their running ability, their ability to press the hole and find the holes and finish runs. So from a standpoint of freshmen coming in and playing limited time, I thought that those two guys showed as much potential on, hey, if we got some blocking, we know how to, do our job in terms of pressing the hole and sustaining. So I don't know, a lot of people are off on the bandwagon that Jace is clearly, better than Roydell. I'm not at that point yet. I have to see him play some more. But Jace looks the part of being kind of a big back who I think will put on probably another 10 pounds or so before he leaves. Roydell, to me, Ryan, he's going to remind me probably a lot of a Josh Jacobs. You just don't see the power when you look at the size until you see him finish a run. And so even though he's not as big a body as Jace, I think he still runs a lot like Josh Jacobs. So I think Alabama is in good hands. Hopefully Trey Sanders comes back. But I think they got two young guys that can help carry the load, because right now, Ryan, those two guys could be the guys next year if Brian and Najee leave, because what's his name is, they say he's going to make a full recovery, but it was a hip injury, and the hip injury could be back in 9 months, or it could be a full year. Who knows?
Nick Saban saying that it's not the hip, that the injury to Tua, that's not similar in Tua Tagovailoa when you look at Alabama. Martin, I want you to chew on one stat line. Mike in Birmingham called me, and I know he calls you as well, and he pointed out something that I want you to let it marinate for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Did you realize that Dylan Moses did not record a defensive statistic in Saturday's game? Not an assist, not a solo, not a tackle for a loss, not a sack, not a quarterback carry, not a pass breakup, nothing, not one defensive statistic for Dylan Moses. Let me give him credit, though. He had one tackle. It was counted, took off because of the offsides and penalties. He had one tackle, but that didn't show up in the stat book. That's your Mike linebacker. Can Alabama win with that type of production once it gets settled? We'll talk about it. Martin Houston, I'm Ryan Fowler. College football playoff rankings, Alabama at that number 1 spot. We will continue right here on Alabama Tradition, the past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the number 1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret? With Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/try to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/try.
Tide 100.9, WTID-FM, and ESPN Radio for the biggest events in sports. Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9.
You're listening to Tide 100.9. Are you in the holiday spirit? Check out Tuscaloosa's Home for the Holidays on Nick 97.5. All Christmas songs 24/7.
Here comes Van Tippen. With 6 seconds, he's in the game.
My heart won't stand it.
He missed a 52-yarder earlier, wide left with the win. This is 52 yards into the breeze. Not strong, but there's some. The kick is up. Long enough. It's long enough. It is good. He made it.
So as we welcome you back to Alabama tradition, always great to hear the kick. 1985, Van Tiffen. It's good. It's good. It's good. We're going to talk about the Iron Bowl rivalry from a historical perspective, kind of breaking it down when you look at the upcoming matchup. But, Martin, I let you marinate on that for a couple of minutes. Dylan Moses did not record any statistics in the performance against the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, I think you should cover up a little bit if you're trying to make a defense. A lot of the backups got a lot of reps, and so that took probably a little bit over a quarter, maybe out of those starters. Just your reaction when you hear that number.
Well, I mean, your reaction would be that, oh my God, how bad did Alabama get beat? How many points did they score? Would be your initial reaction in the typical world of your middle linebacker, your start middle linebacker, who's your general, not doing it, not making a tackle. But then you have to back up and say, okay, did he impact the game? Did he influence the game in a positive way? Did Kentucky do something to schematically move him out and to take advantage of him having to move around? I know early on, it's a shocking statistic, and I want to say that there was one play that he made that they ended up, the guy was at the 2-yard line, and I thought Dylan made that tackle. He hit the guy from behind. The guy's knee hit the ground, but they didn't originally call him down. But I could be wrong. I thought that was Dylan. It may have been someone else. But either way, one tackle, no tackles, still a glaring anomaly. I would call it an anomaly. But then I would go back and say, Ryan, did Kentucky's game plan help contribute to that? Because you remember how much they were moving to get guys out of there and moving them out. It's shocking, just to say the least.
Sure, and it was for me. I didn't know the stat until one of the callers pointed it out.
So, but I didn't feel like Dylan Moses played a bad game. I mean, it felt like he was always around the ball. That's what's kind of weird. And I think had he not played a good game, Ryan, then Kentucky would have exploited the middle. So there was something that was happening there. I always looked at, sometimes you don't always, it's sort of like pass rush. Not every great pass rusher makes the sack, but he causes another guy to get the sack. Derek Thomas made a lot of tackles for George Bethune. I mean, there was a lot of times the guy was running the other way because he knew Derek was coming, and so it impacted. And I think Dylan has that type of influence on the game that maybe they ran away from him. Maybe they did. But either way, that's still a shocking statistic.
So look at Alabama's defensive performance. We all go back to Ole Miss, and we look at 63-48. When you work ahead, you had Georgia coming in, Tennessee coming in, Mississippi State. The LSU game was postponed, and now Kentucky. Have you seen enough in Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky to look at this defense and say that they've got better? And is it enough to win a national title on the defensive side?
Well, two different questions there. One is, have they gotten better? Absolutely. This team is better. This defensive team, without a doubt, is better. by far than what they were early in the season. We don't have as many guys running around out of position, looking to the sideline, Ryan. Some of the stuff that carried over from last year. Even though Dillon did not have tackles, they did say that Dillon has got to the point where guys are getting in position faster, quicker, so he's able to focus back on doing his job, which kind of surprised me since he actually did less of that this game supposedly than he had in the past. But defense is definitely better, Ryan. I think the DBs are coming together better when they're having to switch. Receivers, you don't see as many guys running wide open. My biggest question that I can't figure out is I think that we're still missing one dominant player in that middle like we've had with Quinnen Williams and others in the past. And I think it's Barmore, but I can't understand why he doesn't play more. He flashes every time he's in the game. He is disruptive. He is nasty. He is mean, but he doesn't play as much. It's like they just don't feel like they can trust him or something. But I think with him and Mathis, more than him and Dale, Mathis and Dale, this defense is better. And, yes, I think they're good enough to win a national championship, Ryan, because for the first time, this is why. Because this is what we worried about with Tua. We were afraid that we could, if we got into a game and someone stopped our offense. Well, you have to stop our offense on both sides now. We'll run for 350 yards on you, or we'll throw for 400. We didn't have that with Tua. We were going to throw for 400, but we weren't going to run the ball dominant. So with that balance on offense, this defense is not elite. I'm not saying that, but I think
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be, but I think they're good enough to balance out, and Alabama can win a national championship because I think they're getting better, Ryan. I think that if we stop where we're at, let me say this way. If we stop where we're at, no. The defense we played Saturday would not beat Clemson and Ohio State. We have to get better against Auburn this week. We have to get better.
Maybe that's why I had this expectation that going up in 3-week bye week that, listen, I know they played great, but we also got to look at the opponent who not only came to Tuscaloosa, but they were also without quite a few of their starters as well.
But I think that helped them early.
It may have.
I think that you practice with what you know, and then that's not what they do. So that's a possibility there. Two quick observations. One is 1 week we had to stop a pass defense. Offense, and we did. We shut them out. The next game we played, even though it was three weeks, it was a run team. We stopped them.
Right.
So to me, that is something that last year's defense could not have done. They just couldn't take away either or. And this defense showed that in one game we can at least take away a pass game. One game we can put that together. That'll be what it takes to beat those guys.
Tying it into Auburn, when we look at Gus and the game plan that he will design, is this Auburn team good enough on offense that they can challenge Alabama? Any concerns about that? And then we'll work our way to break and we'll come back and wrap up Alabama and Auburn. But when you look, because I know you look at Auburn's offense and you look at what they'll bring to Tuscaloosa, we see what they've been able to do in the first 7 games. But they've got some wrinkles that they will pull out against the Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you see offensively for Auburn?
Well, Ryan, what would you say that our run game, we still look like you could possibly gash us up the middle when you saw Kentucky have some success up the middle? We saw Georgia have success up the middle. We saw Mississippi State didn't run it a lot, but they even had success up the middle. That concerns you for this reason. What does Gus want to do? He wants to run the ball right at you. And so that's why I was saying about Barmore up the middle. I think he has to have a big game. I think Auburn's offense can use the read option and the RPOs. If we're not sound up the middle, then our outside contained guys have to play solid because Bo Nix will hurt you, Ryan, if you let him get outside, and then Gus can do the whole triple option with the pass to the receiver or pass down the field. So, yes, Auburn can. I don't think they will, but that's what to me it would take is them having that type of just a running power game. I don't think they're going to be able to pass it like they did last year.
When you look at Auburn, I think they're a lot different team defensively, but the question of looking at Alabama, will they line up and play smash mouth football? I mean, will you because it helps that defense out enough if you can control the time of possession. Nick Saban gave us a really good explanation following the game, talking about, well, listen, if you score early and your defense does this, he said it kind of looks bad because you look at your time of possession. He said it didn't tell all the details, but Alabama could, and I think they could do it against some top teams. I mean, I think that offensive line, that's a game plan that we've used, but I think there's more in that well for Alabama.
That's what I'm saying is I think that's why I said back to a question earlier, why do I think this team can win a national title? Because I don't think you can take anything. Pick your poison.
Take what the defense will give you.
Yeah, pick your poison. So if you line up to stop our passing game, if you come into this game to stop Mac Jones, Alabama physically have the running back and the offensive line that they will make you pay, and then Mac Jones will punish you for play action pass.
The question that I'm going to ask Martin Houston on the other side, when you look at the Alabama-Auburn rivalry, I'm curious of growing up in the state of Alabama and playing in the game, did that magnify your thoughts of the Iron Bowl? Martin Houston, Ryan Fowler, Alabama tradition, the past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
A good supply of sunshine this afternoon. Tuscaloosa's high at 70. Tonight, increasingly cloudy with the low at 55. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. Showers and a few strong thunderstorms are likely tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. The daytime high 72. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9, WTID-FM, and ESPN Radio, bringing you all things sports in T-Town. You're listening to Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. The host of the game, Ryan Fowler, and the host of the Martin Houston Show, Martin Houston, have combined to offer a show filled with in-depth analysis of Alabama football and more. Alabama Tradition broadcasts live on Tide 100.9 every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. and is available live and on playback on numerous affiliates around the Southeast. Check out alabamatradition.com for a list of affiliates, as well as other great content.
To hold him to a field goal. They got the big fella in the backfield. Touchdown at Church.
It's great to be the number one team in the country. It's great to have the Iron Bowl. Martin, I'm curious, when you look back at your perception of the Alabama and Auburn game when you came in as a player, did it change after playing in the game? Did it magnify it? Did it confirm anything when you look at the Iron Bowl and have a chance to play in that 5 years?
Well, Ryan, first of all, for the listeners who don't know, they're always shocked. Don't drive off the road.
I wasn't going to tell that. I was not going to tell that story.
I did not grow up necessarily an Auburn fan, but I was a big-time Auburn fan in high school and through recruiting. I didn't necessarily grow up either one of them per se because I was a big nerd, but once I got to high school, it was all about Auburn. So that kick that he just played is funny.
I was going to ask you that earlier, but
it's funny. It's funny. Like. as an Alabama fan, that doesn't do anything for me as an Alabama alumni, because when it happened, I was mad. It hurt. It was like, it would be like, think about a kid right now growing up an Alabama fan who watched the kick six and then ends up playing in Tuscaloosa. Well, when everybody talk about the kick six he ends up playing in Auburn, but he's an Alabama fan, Ryan. And he goes in. And so when they play the kick six, he'll be up there like, man, that stinks, because his mind. And so that was kind of my journey here. But Ryan, one thing I can tell you is either way, you grew up wanting to play for that school. When I was going to Auburn, I wanted to play for Auburn. When I flipped to Alabama, it was about playing for Alabama, and it was all about beating that team across the state on the other side. And it didn't take very long as a player to go from not liking them, And Ryan, even right now, I have a son that's being recruited in football. I know I shouldn't be saying anything bad about Auburn because they run an H-back, and my son likes the H-back position, and Gus runs an H-back, and I still can't help myself but say negative stuff about this recorded that I would have to lie about, and so if that tells you how much it changes once you're there, it confirmed everything, and I really wish it had that same feeling. I think the fans still have the same feeling, but I don't think the players as a whole have the same feeling that we had.
From an Alabama perspective or from an Auburn perspective? See, I feel
from an Alabama perspective more.
I think we
have a lot more.
We've moved beyond Auburn.
A lot more.
Yeah, we're not counting. Like, I think you could walk up to the players now, and, yeah, they respect Auburn, but they look at Baton Rouge as their rivalry. I'm telling you. It's
right. Oh, without a doubt.
Now, the Alabama kids may look at it different.
It's not even just Alabama. I mean, not just LSU. They expect to play in championship game, so they have, like, Alabama. I mean, there's LSU, there's Clemson, there's Ohio State. That's who these guys get, like, about. But the flip side, you can't tell me that Auburn, because of their tie to the state, the number of players that they have traditionally had on their team, and they're not as much of a national brand. I think the Iron Bowl, if you can use the SEC, I think Auburn could say when it comes to Iron Bowl, it just means more. Because every time that Auburn's been good, and this is what I'm waiting on, Ryan, I'm disappointed that Auburn got beat by South Carolina or Georgia. I was really hoping this year would be the year that Auburn would be good and Nick Saban would actually beat a good Auburn team. He's never beat a 9-win Auburn team. Even though he's dominated the series, every time Auburn's been on par with Alabama, Ryan, not even as good, but on par, they have managed to win the game. And that's what you and I are talking about, because I think they want it more because it's more ingrained in how they judge their season, how they judge success, how they judge their program. If you leave out of Alabama, what do you think the question is now under Nick Saban? How many national championships y'all win?
Right.
What do you think it is at Auburn?
How many times you beat Alabama?
How did you do in the Iron Bowl?
I mean, I think it's dead on the money. I think you nailed it. And I've been on the sidelines, and I watch the energy, and you look and you see it, and you can see it on the television side of things. They bring the heat. They have this emotional, and I think some of it goes back to not getting recruited by Alabama, and I think there's something there to prove. Mm-hmm. And you say, hey, I'm going to show you something, Nick Saban. You should have offered me a scholarship.
Yes. Well, Ryan, answer it this way. I don't go to the games a lot, and I don't go to the sidelines. I've not been on the sideline of a game since I left, I don't think, for an entire game. But what you're talking about, you can feel it. It's palpable when you're standing there. Is there any difference in what you feel on Alabama's sideline?
Oh, absolutely.
Hold on. When you go, when they're jacked up to play LSU or when they're jacked up to play in the national championship game, is that not the exact same feeling when you go back to the Notre Dame game, when you go back to the Clemson game, when you go back to those games? Is that not the exact same atmosphere and feeling you feel when you walk to the Auburn sideline in the Iron Bowl?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, as you were sitting there saying it, I mean, I'm going through it, I'm going, yeah, I mean, you're dead on the money. I mean, it's
like we're just playing those guys over there. But Auburn is like,
So maybe you and I should do the pregame speech on Saturday afternoon.
I could get them riled up. Play for the Crimson.
You wear that Crimson jersey.
I promise that you will never see. Oh, that's Florida and Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
My bad.
And then, but Nick Saban opened up and his opening speech, he said, we've got an opponent, he wouldn't even call their name, that we want to dominate 365. And, I guess we do it in some extent, but 8-5 to me is not very dominant in 13 years. Is it compared to everybody else? I mean, he's 8-5 in 13 years.
Gus Malzahn's beat him how many times?
2 out of the last 3?
And 3 out of the last 5?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Am I correct?
Alabama maybe 3 out of 5. Let's see. So it'd be 2 out of 4. Yeah, we'd be 3 out of 5.
He has a good team every other year.
It's a development program.
Right. And so every other year he has a good team and he wins. So does that make him a win? I'm sorry.
All right, so Martin, we're going to be off tomorrow, man. Thanksgiving on Thursday. Certainly a lot of things. I know when you look at, we could sit here and do a pity party for 2020 and we would probably get some response. But big Thanksgiving on Thursday, certainly recognizing we live in the greatest country in the world and a trip around the buffet line, no doubt.
Ryan, I had an opportunity last Wednesday to teach a message on gratitude.
Oh, you did?
Oh, God, yes. And
did you step on some toes?
My own.
Okay.
I went to work the next day, had to apologize to my team, had to send them a text message and say, God must have knew that I needed this because he had me preach that message. So, but Ryan, as bad as things have been or difficult as things have been, this is the greatest country, and despite all the craziness, we need to have gratitude. Take some time over the next day, week, month, and turn it into a lifestyle. Figure out how to be grateful in the small things, and then the big things, it'll be easy. So happy Thanksgiving to you and yours and all our great listeners and supporters.
And also, happy anniversary from yesterday, 31 years.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to believe. I got married at 10.
Hey, Brian.
Maybe 19. I'm 50, so I'm okay with that.
I wouldn't. Hey, ham or turkey?
Huh?
Ham or turkey?
Yes.
Both? I'm the same way.
Which one you got that's not dry?
Are you a cranberry sauce guy?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Oh, dressing.
I love dressing.
Dressing. Now, I need
giblet gravy.
I need the countryman version of dressing. I ain't want none of that. Just the bread. I need some chicken. I need some turkey or chicken up in the dressing with some eggs.
You take the neck bone from the turkey and mix it all in there together.
What? We went country on that one, though.
Well, we are country, Mark.
Oh, that's right. We didn't go anywhere, did we?
We're from North Alabama. Marty Houston, I'm Ryan Fowler. Big thanks to Brian as always. Roll Tide, enjoy Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys on Friday for our great lineup on Tide 100.9. Good night, T-Town.